HEXican signing in. Going to do a little bit of analysis into things I've been noticing. Basically, when you are in an echo chamber and you assume that others understand everything you understand and vice versa, or you get tunnel vision and you may not realize that the reach that you think you have may not exist. Now, what does that mean? Now, this is my new favorite site for a little bit because it's got all the, hex price, the Ethereum price, and the fees it costs to do a transfer, do a swap, add liquidity, and things like that. Now, I'm assuming everyone knows how to do a limit order on Matcha, and I'm assuming people are aware that when liquidity got pulled in mass amounts and selling on top of that, it would cause the price to drop. So it's day 910. I want to have a quick look at things I'm noticing in probably the markets in general. So I put in some search trends and I found it fascinating that Pulse Chain is almost non-existent. So people aren't going into Google and typing in Pulse Chain. What is Pulse Chain? They may not know it exists. More are typing in Hex, but again, the numbers relative to Bitcoin is lower. Surprisingly, it's up on Ethereum. But again, these are just general search terms. Now, what I found was interesting. Like, did anyone type in what is Pulse Chain into Bitcoin? I'm pretty sure this Google Trends, for some reason, from where I'm accessing the internet, it's like Australia. So it breaks down where it's coming from. It's a pretty even distribution by the looks of that graph. Funnily enough, there's like zero interest in some states. Huh, there you go. There you go, that's interesting. Related queries is Richard Hart. And related queries, Ethereum, Hedron price, Richard Hart, net worth, Unsplash, theme NASDAQ, okay. I don't know how they're pulling that data, but we can see here, this Bitcoin trend is fascinating. I'm not sure if that's due to like, not retail investors, maybe retail investors or like people in legacy finance. Maybe they're the ones interested in Bitcoin and they're looking into the price as it's moving up and down. So as the news cycles, like literally we can see a news cycle here, people searching for Bitcoin, which is pretty fascinating. It kind of looks like a heartbeat, like a pulse. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, that's just one thing I thought I'd bring out to everyone's attention. So if everyone's in the echo chamber, the actual reach outside of the echo chamber relative to other cryptocurrencies is actually not as strong, given a search term. I mean, that's a pretty vague set of data, but I think you can see my point. Moving on. Now, if the cost of living is rising, food is getting more expensive, and you have less money to spend because, I don't know, the price of oil is affecting petrol prices, and there's like wars and things like that influencing those other factors, which are flowing onto the person's end user's wallet. They're going to have less to be searching for investments. Now, previously we can see certain type of people may not actually be even aware of Pulse Chain, are less aware of Hex versus Bitcoin, for example. So people, maybe if they actually do have any money left, what they're searching for, they're not aware of yet. So this is where, if you think about things, how people think, the message being portrayed by media outlets can affect one's perception. And then if your perception is crypto is like, say, Bitcoin, then when you're searching for Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in Google, you're unknowingly being affected by the news cycles, which you kind of can see in this particular graph, but it's not as obvious. It could be a complete theory. I could be completely wrong. But if people are being affected by what they see and read in the news and what they are looking at, it can then influence their decisions, is basically what I'm trying to say here. And again, if there's events taking place that are affecting people's ability to invest, when they look for investments, what are they actually looking for if it's not easily identifiable? The next thing is, this is in the market. Sorry, this is in the news cycle, saying how a crypto crash could spread to treasury bonds and other fixed income securities. Now, if you think, for instance, you don't know about Hex at all, you're not aware of any like upcoming Pulse chain, Pulse X, nothing, and you think cryptocurrency is purely Bitcoin, for example, you may not understand the concept about seed phrases, as in not your keys, not your crypto, things like that. So you're trying to talk to these people and say, you know, there's other cryptocurrencies out there. There's the whole DeFi movement. There's running off the back of Ethereum. There's other level 1 chains out there, and then there's the upcoming Pulse chain. If they don't even understand the word like outside of Bitcoin, it's going to be hard to explain to them, you know, there's mad gains to be had, to get them to like research outside of their like Bitcoin. Maybe they perceive Bitcoin as the blue chip. I don't know. Bitcoin, Ethereum. Maybe they consider them the blue chip in their older ways of viewing investments. Now we see the crypto crash. Now you can look into that from, I'm assuming other people like know this. I might be getting things wrong, because other people may have way more knowledge than I. But what I'm saying is, like, if a crypto crash is because they saw, I think it's Luna, go to like 0 because of the mechanism on which it functions, but people only see that, oh, the coin went to 0 because this was affecting this, which affected this, which lost its peg, which affected both of them. But they only see that a cryptocurrency went to 0. It then causes doubt, and they go, oh shit, maybe everything except Bitcoin and Ethereum could go to 0. Oh, maybe even Bitcoin and Ethereum could go to 0. You see what I'm saying? Like, and we have headlines like this. A lot of people don't even read the article. They might just like read the headline, and it's quite easy to do. But then you read the content of the article, and it could be slightly different to what the headline's saying. But that's a side thing. But it's basically, I'm basically pointing out. So say I'm going through the internet looking at what should I buy or whatever. I'm only aware of cryptocurrency being like the top 1 or 2 positions on coin ranking sites, because they think that the market cap is the main set of data to look at when looking at a cryptocurrency. They don't even, again, repeating myself, they're not even aware of, like, they're not your seeds, not your keys, and they use centralized exchanges, or they use apps on their phone, or they use leverage trading, and they think that is cryptocurrency. They're like, oh, I'm buying some crypto, yeah, I'm like going long, going short, whatever. That could be possible. Then we can analyze maybe what they're actually looking at, and they just generally looking like Bitcoin. That's cryptocurrency to them, because of the news articles being put out there. Now, where was I? Yeah, so we got people looking at the search functions on Google. People are searching things in Google. We're picking up some sort of weird rhythm. I don't know why that is. Possibly the news cycle itself, possibly the price movements of cryptocurrency. We then have harder living conditions. Things, people in the first world struggling, like people might be, people in the third world are going to be dying. Like, they're not probably going to put that up there as well, but that's what's taking place. Now, if that's happening as well as the news cycles that include crypto generally, not explaining and just basically telling the audience like how it is, not providing other point of views. So if you were to look up, like Hex or anything like that in MarketWatch, it may not even make it to that particular site. So then, therefore, how can someone find out about it if it's not in the places that you would, investors would look for it? You could say that's gatekeeping. You could say that's lack of knowledge by the people in charge of the particular outlets. Yeah, who knows? Who knows what it is? Now, on the back of all of that, you have things, underlying things, like, so maybe it's become apparent that this headline is saying helpless against hypersonics. So the US to boost its military base that China is practicing to obliterate with deadly missiles. So we have the military industrial complex aspect of all of this. We have, I don't know how to put it. So as countries build up their arsenals, it probably encourages more spending on the opposite party. So say China has developed hypersonic missiles higher than the rate of the US. It would then, to me, it would encourage more spending. I mean, rightfully so, to be able to defend against it, also to develop better hypersonics or something else. And so goes on the loop, the endless feed, the endless money printing to prop up the military-backed economy. Because if you look into economics, it's actually the war economy, because, I don't know how to word it. It's actually the war economy because people that are trying to fill the gap in the economy, most of the time it is through military spending. And so if countries other than the US actually increase their military spending, their economies will probably start to increase. Now, previously, many years ago, it was said US is dominant because of this factor, and it was also said that other countries, once they catch up or overtake the US in those areas of spending, they will quite happily do so. Now, as I say that, obviously the US is the highest. They spend the most on their military. If you look at the spending, but also if you compare what's been going on with China and their spending, it has been increasing, and you can see they've been massing large forces, etc., etc. Now, this is slightly different, but what I'm saying is this. This whole, the economy as a whole, it has many different data sets. Now, depending on what data set you look at, depends on how you view the world. Like the way I view the world may be completely different to the way anyone watching this video views the world. What I'm saying is, when you have military industrial complex-esque type things lined up with media that can influence what other people view. I mean, rightfully so in some instances, because of I guess data quality control, data integrity, and things like that. But what we can see is a strong correlation between what is put out there on larger news websites, even, for example, and what people perceive to be reality. Because if you are looking at, let's have a look, taking it right back, if you're looking at people, what they're searching, how they're searching it, that's strange. I just can't get over that pattern. That's quite odd. Maybe it's a certain time, everyone logs in at the same time, who knows. And what they're looking for. And then you look at the conditions of people and how much money they may have to spend on investments or things like that, or if they're like pulling investments out or whatever. We then look at the reasons, like how come, why are we all, why is there inflation? Why does things cost more? It's like, oh, because maybe there's a not because there's a crypto crash, but maybe because there's some factors, underlying factors, influencing things that could affect, everyday living. Whew, that was a mouthful. Now, you have a look at as I'm talking about the military-industrial type things, what's that backed by? You've got the petrodollar, and then on top of all of that, you've got the battle for dominance, I guess, economic dominance, financial dominance, the World War III, the currency war. You've got a superpower in the region, also has hypersonics invading another country on its border. You can go a lot deeper into all of that, but you have at the same time that that country who supplies their goods and services to Europe as a whole. Now, Europe can't even decide to get together and not import the oil, basically. And it's like, okay, so what exactly is going on now? Okay, I'm going off on a bit of a few more layers deeper than I intended to, but with this predicament we currently face, as in parallel to the war that is currently going on, not talking about where the weapons are coming from, but on top of that, you have sanctions being placed on it, but the sanctions can't be effectively placed on it because of the other country's reliance on the particular thing that a lot of the time is controlling the economy, funnily enough, which is tied into the militaries around the world, which is tied into their spending, because the way that they spend money and how their economy performs a lot of the time is based on how much military might they want to build up. Hence my article before with US, China, and then oil, Russia, EU, investors as a whole thinking cryptocurrency is crashing because of like one particular event that took place, which affected another peg, which then tanked, which then everyone thought was cryptocurrency as a whole, which fed into the economy, which is led by the military-industrial complex, which is also now affecting everyone's price of living. Because on top of all of that, if you can stay with me, the large banks around the world are the ones who set the rates, and that can also affect the monetary policy, which affects the economy, and then it's the endless loop. This is what I was talking about before. The EU fails to agree on a Russia oil embargo, so I'm pretty sure Russia might have thought about this ahead. At the same time, I'm pretty sure they actually rolled out the will only accept rubles for any, I think, gas or energy. So effectively, they said, we're going to go against the petrodollar. Like a lot of people, I think the last country that did that was Gaddafi, and that didn't go too well for him and that country. And he also actually said that if he were to fall, then there would be a flood of migrants that would push up into Europe, and that actually happened. Anyway, going off topic, back on topic. We have the world economy, what's being reported in the news. Some people may believe that Ukraine is winning the war against Russia. And whilst you see people, countries shipping in mass amounts of weapons, there's shortages of, like, I don't know, baby formula, for example, and then countries were shipping in baby formula into their country whilst how they have already shipped weapons to other countries. Now, being from Australia, it's like, how relevant is it? But like, to be honest, Australia is pretty much a puppet of the US. So, and I like to think one day, I don't like to think, but I'm pretty sure should there ever be a larger conflict, that Australia will be hoping that someone comes to save them. And I keep telling people, imagine if no one's coming because they're tied up with other situations. Now, anyway, off topic there a bit, but Ukraine suffers on battlefield while pleading for US arms. So the whole time the media has been portrayed showing Ukraine being efficient, at the repelling of Russia. Now, at the same time, Russia's using hypersonics to test, basically, and there's like other little drones that Ukraine are using, and there's more weapons being shipped in, and the type of battle does affect how the war's going, other factors such as weather, etc. Arguably, this could have been predicted, especially with the build-up. A lot of things are going on. Now, what I'm trying to say is, if we take it back again, we have a look at what's going on as a whole. You've got people's understanding of what is going on. And there's not a lot of awareness versus Bitcoin with Hex and Pulse Chain, basically in Australia for those search terms on Google. But if you jump into the actual community, and you can see what's going on, it's almost internal messaging versus external messaging. I've seen some pretty good external messaging though. But if the bulk majority is internal, it's like, preaching to the choir, being in the echo chamber. Nothing wrong with that. The community is cool, but like, it's not going to, at the moment, it's not outperforming other cryptocurrencies. And the perception of other cryptocurrencies being that they are the blue chip, even though there are some serious, flaws, just there's information out there to suggest otherwise, that the top two, those cryptocurrencies, there is reasons why they may not be the top 1 and 2 forever. But getting that message out is quite difficult in this current environment, because people are not looking to invest further. There has been downturns in the market abroad. There's ongoing conflicts causing nervousness in the markets. The way the market is set up is insane because everything's intertwined. So should one country go toward the other country, they're still reliant on each other for goods. It makes no sense. As we can see here with the embargo issue, we have the portrayal of one story versus what is actually happening. And then we have, this is kind of an underlying thing. It's like, arguably it's conspiratorial, but you have far-reaching US amendments to WHO regulations, global pandemic treaty raise concerns. It's basically, the simplest way I put it is that if you look into how the law functions, and then you look into treaties, there are some things within treaties that, I don't know how to put it, don't need to adhere to the law because of the fact that it's a treaty. Now, if, for instance, there was a treaty that was agreed to by other countries within that treaty, and whatever was contained in that treaty would not be subject to other laws. So it's like, it's not bypassing the law, but through treaties, things can be achieved that were not previously possible. Now, you could say, if the WHO was to provide a treaty regarding health regulations, that if that was agreed to by all the nations around the world, that treaty would overrule the existing, I guess, states and territories laws because of the treaty on that state and territory between the countries. Now that sounds crazy, but that's actually how treaties work. I mean, I've got the, where is it? Like, well, this is Australian law anyway. It's like law of contract, whatever. And it's like, although by adopting international treaties, our parliaments do restrict, in a practical sense, some of their legislative freedom. So that's what I wanted to raise with that. Now, we have, on top of this, all of this going on, we have Elon Musk. Now, we're probably all fairly aware of what's going on in terms of him going to purchase Twitter. I'm actually not sure what's going on with it at the moment, but it appears there was some sort of kickback where people, for some reason, I don't understand, they didn't like that idea, but at the same time, they really liked his car, for instance. So I have no idea what's going on. Personally, I like Elon Musk. I like his technology as well. Not so keen on the Neuralink, the idea of Neuralink, but if someone had a disability and it was able to be fixed with a Neuralink implant, that is pretty amazing. But if on the very far end you sort of want to upload your mind into a computer, by all means, you can go ahead, you do that first, and if you can prove to me that worked, then that would be up to you to do that. But I wouldn't want a treaty having that enforced on you, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, now if you're into the whole Twitter story, I guess what is happening, there's a group called Project Veritas, and they've actually got some pretty decent content they've able to obtain, and I think they put it up on YouTube or whatever platform they're on. So maybe check that out if you want. Twitter all hands call leaked. But so that's like if you want to follow that sort of stuff, if you're interested in that. Because I mean, you could simply, again, go back to like the Google search and type in, what you're looking for, and then you'll be siloed into a particular search result, and then you'll be able to draw data, but from limited data sets. So whether or not that's your actual intention to do that, or you actually want to find the truth, it's a vague line between free will, honestly. So what do we got? So I thought I'd go to Google. I would type in crypto news. Now, depending on what country you're searching from, you will get tailor-made specific data, because like how if you're in Australia, you'll actually be charged more for some software than other countries, because they've done some figures, they've run some numbers and thought, well, Australians can afford more for some reason, because per capita, the earnings, etc., versus like somewhere in a third world country who has lesser earnings, they'll have the same software and they will charge more. But anyway, that's a side point. So yeah, I thought let's look at crypto news. What do we got? I'll refresh. What do we got? Yeah, so they're still talking about Terra's epic collapse, why the crypto industry was exported out of China, and then we got JP Morgan's bull case for Bitcoin, which is interesting because previously, pretty sure there's like footage of like them as they're progressively going along, as they're investing more and more. Arguably, I would say that they are more pro crypto. Pro crypto being the exchanges, being their ability to sell via an exchange, and the opposite of what crypto was for. But who cares about that? Bitcoin, yay. So then let's have a look at post-chain news. So post-chain, if you type in post-chain news into Google and you're searching from Australia like I am, this is what will be pulled up. So if you don't know anything about Hex, you don't know anything about Rigid, you don't know anything about post-chain, you go in to do a search, and someone's told you some crap. You're like, oh, whatever. You look it up. Well, post-chain, what the fuck's this? Okay. Oh, what's this shit? I mean, doesn't look overly enticing. But yeah. So this is just what but then you'd probably go, But this is funny. Like you type in Pulse Chain news. Like I don't know. I would have thought Pulse Chain would be number one, and yeah, I don't know. And there's Reddit's people might go to Reddit. People might go to YouTube. People might go to Twitter. There's all different avenues people might go to, but I'm just covering here particularly the the outbound message to potential new investors. But yeah, so that's about it. That's my little rant for the day. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you got something out of that. It's not really anything much to do with Hex or Pulse Chain, but I just thought I would present my thoughts on the way I think. In closing, we have people's free will being affected by the narratives being placed out by big news organizations because of their lack of ability to provide relevant data. Because when they do provide relevant data, it's not in the normal way that you would probably look. So when you go to look for it, you won't find it unless you go to say something like Project Veritas. For instance, you have a war ongoing between a superpower and a proxy war going on between US, NATO, and Russia, which is always good because being near a world war is wonderful to know. We now know that China has undefendable hypersonic missiles, which means they can penetrate wherever they want. We know that the crypto crash is being portrayed as all cryptos could crash to zero, which is wonderful, especially when the price of living, especially when the wars itself being funded by large banks who allow for these war machines to be built. Knowing that, oh my God, I just can't get it out. It's like, so, okay, the people that fund the war, so you know where the finances come from? You say, oh, from the government, oh, from a central bank, oh, it's from here. So every country is like tied in, and so the same people that are funding wars on all the sides are the ones that are making the people suffer who live under the different countries. But yeah, so just take that into account. And so imagine you try and create something for the people, I don't know, like Hex or something, or Pulse Chain, because I don't know, Bitcoin's been overtaken by like banks, large institutions, not overtaken, but they want in, and they want to sort of get their little cut of everything. You can't get that message out because at every point, arguably there is a lot of censorship, because when you go to the crypto outlets, they refuse for whatever reason to cover Hex and Pulse Chain. But yeah, that's my argument in closing. Take of that what you will. I could go on and repeat myself over and over and over until I'm blue in the face, but no one will listen. But yeah, that being said, I think the bottom was in. This is like direct opposite. I think the bottom was in, but I reckon if it went lower, it would bounce back up. That's honestly what I think. But yeah, and I think if people who bought in at very high, for whatever reason, are able to utilize the staking feature of Hex properly, and I just hope their circumstances are okay, because yeah, it's never good to be, maybe someone bought at the top of Luna, they put their life savings into Luna, it crashed and went to zero, and maybe they leveraged short it, and they'd actually owe more money. Like there's so many things that could happen. I mean, maybe people didn't short it, maybe they longed it, leverage. Maybe someone leveraged short of it, made some money. Who knows? But yeah, that's about it. Hopefully that was interesting, and thank you if anyone had watched this. HEXcoin signing out.